Well, this Honda Hornet we're looking at, which is some years old and quite high mileage, was suffering from a very common problem for these bikes, presumably the 600s as well as the 900, and that is that the brackets supporting the exhaust pipes snapped off with vibration. I don't know if it was a common problem for that era, but I had exactly the same problem with my Suzuki, which was 2004 GSX 1300. I never got round to repairing that because I parted with that one and got a Generation 2, and on that one, which is 2016 I think, the bracketry for the exhaust system is perfect. Now the Generation 1, which had snapped, had only done 15,000 miles, so whether it was a design flaw back 15 or 16 years ago, I'm not sure, but design flaw it certainly was, because hopefully when I get underneath the bike, now you can't really see it too much, but there's a rectangular section of the frame that comes down, and I've measured it with my trusty calipers, and it's 3mm thick. Now anyone that's done any design engineering knows that you get strength through shape, and rectangular and box section can be very, very strong torsionally, and they make for excellent frames. But the problem is that they extended one end of that rectangular section steel and made that the anchor point for the rubber mounted bracket on the downpipes, which I'm pointing at, which is not that easy to see. So I've actually sprayed the new bracket and the stand point here, which that part of the stand rubs up against that. It's the centre sound stop, which is 5mm thick and substantial. So I decided the easy thing to do was to try and make a bracket from that point, which is really quite strong, and construct a bracket with bends in it. Now anything with bends in it tends to absorb vibration, so I put it together, and now I'm taking it apart, so you can see by doing a reversal how simple it is really. It's a very fortunate thing that the centre stand stop is in the position we can use to make another bracket, because the alternative is to re-weld a section or re-bolt a section onto the rectangular tubing, and that's a pain because I mean you need to get to it, and I don't want to be stripping this bike right down for a bracket. So first thing I'm going to do is take the fixing off for the rubber part, the bit that's rubber mounted. So there we've got a split pin and a spring washer so it doesn't vibrate off next time. So there we go. Had to put a new bolt in it with a big fat washer so that it doesn't damage the rubber mounting. You can see the rubber mounting just there behind the stand. Next thing is to remove the two bolts that hold the main bracket on, for which I'll need an extension on that one. I haven't put it on tight, I just put it all together to check it all works and that it doesn't require any easing off. the stand doesn't get in the way of anything. And if you use a bracket of the dimensions that I've got, you'll find that nothing needs to be done. You do have to lose the 8mm socket cap screw that comes with the original. Incidentally, that one, when I found it, was almost finger tight. The top one was very tight, but it does get a pounding from the center stand. So you need a bigger bolt. So there's the original socket cap screw. You need another 8mm bolt that's just a bit longer, not too much. And there is the bracket, which I keep a stock of this stuff, rubbish. I keep too much rubbish, and forget the drilling points here. Those are the two that you need, and there is the bracket. So just have a look at it, and I'll do a rough measurement. Now this part is the original stand stop. And for reasons that I will show you, you have to put a spacer in the same dimension, the same thickness as the bracket, so that the stand stop pulls up evenly. So we'll whiz that one out, and the bracket goes between the stand stop and the frame, which is a substantial lug here, and on the back of that lug there's a captive nut, which is welded on. So under normal circumstances, if it had been a nut and a bolt, I'd have put the bracket on the far side, but because it's a captive nut, it couldn't be done. So, oh, that one's tight. I thought I could spin it off, but I can't. Had to clean up things underneath before I did any of this because of chain fling. And the other thing I discovered is that the chain fling, as well as not being useful to lubricate this pivot for the side stand, it also doesn't get into the pivots for the center stand. So when I put this back together, there'll be lots of copper slip on these threads, and also I'll be putting thin oil on all of these pivot points. But considering how old this machine is and the number of miles, it's damn good. So there you've got it. There's a part that's bolted, welded in position. It's very substantial, and that should not have a problem. The problem, now that the bracket's off, you can see, is the lateral vibration. There's no up and down vibration to speak of, but I found with aftermarket silencers that the supports, which were only on the headers and up here, this rubber mounted part, meant that things could move around. If you look, there's a fair bit of lateral movement on that, which I didn't like. So I decided that we needed to replace some sort of bracketry. And as I said, just happened to have this piece handy. Just do very quick measurements for you. So that tang there's about 3.5mm, bends, it's on the wrong side. No, it's near enough 2mm, 3.5, 2mm bend, and 6mm long. But the important thing is that's the amount of offset you need to bend in. which is about 1.5 centimetres, and then between the drill holes that you need to put in is about 8mm. There you go, or perhaps a bit more. Let's put it in the centre of that top hole. Oh no, about 7.7 centimetres or something like that. But the main thing is you just get the bend, and by looking at that, that gives you a clue how much bend you need, and then you can just mark the holes through the existing fixing points. So that's it. This incidentally is about 4mm thick, and if you make a bracket that's about 4mm or perhaps 3.5mm, you won't have to grind any of this off. I thought there might not be enough clearance, but by using something that wide, which is just wider than the original frame, hopefully that bend will absorb the vibration, and well, we'll see how it goes. But as you can see, it's the easy way to do it. So that just fits in there, and then it bolts onto the rubber mount on the exhaust pipe just beneath that clamp. So it's there. Put the centre stand on it, put the spacer in at the top, 2 bolts, slightly longer than the original. Job done. So there you go. That, I think, is a fairly easy way to do a repair without welding, without having to drill the frame. It's just lucky that this bracketry is in a useful place, and I can assure you that when it's on, these silencers don't move around so much. I don't think you have quite the same problem with the original silencers, because they are rubber mounted, and they do fit tightly. So probably if you've got the original silencers on, you're not going to get any kind of problem. But I don't like the idea of putting all the weight on the headers. There shouldn't be any stress on the cylinder head, not in my world anyway. But that's definitely a design failure from Mr. Honda, and I assume that all the later ones have been improved. So there you go. I sprayed them silver so that they could be easily seen. So a simple enough job. All I've got to do now is screw it all together.